perfect posture, what do you think of? Probably someone sitting perfectly upright with rolled back shoulders and an open chest, but what if I told you that wasn't perfect? In today's video, we're going to talk about what I deem to be perfect posture, some common postures that you see on people, and then some exercises to give you a little bit more balance. But first, let's talk about this idea of perfect posture. So, long story short, there is no perfect way to sit, stand, lie down. If you think about our joints, our spine, our pelvis, they're meant to move. So when you see people saying, this is the one way you're supposed to sit, or this is the one way you're supposed to stand, they're wrong. Because if you stood or sat in that one perfect posture for a long period of time, you would still end up with pain. Let's take, for example, a common seated posture today. A forward head, protracted shoulders, and a flexed spine. Well, if you always sat with the head pulled back, protracted shoulders, and an extended spine, you would also end up having some kind of back, neck, or hip pain. And that is simply because we want the spine and the joints to move. We want to be able to access all postures, not just one. So often you'll hear these overcorrections of sit like this to get rid of your neck pain, get a standing desk to help your joint pain, wear this posture corrector to help with your back pain. All of these, well, except for the posture corrector, aren't inherently bad, but they're not going to solve your issue. Your issue is either that you don't diversify your positioning enough during your day, or you can't. Far too often, people actually just don't have access to full range of motion through their spine, through their joints, or through their pelvis. So let's dive into some of the common postural imbalances that every personal trainer learned when they first started getting their certifications, but the information does still hold up, but I'm gonna give a little bit more information on exercises or drills that actually might be able to help with these. But let me say with all of these things, I am simply giving you ideas on how to correct certain imbalances, but I want you to take away two things from this video. Number one, if an imbalance is not causing you pain or inhibiting your daily movement, you probably don't need to fix it. We are not robots. We are not meant to be perfectly balanced. So again, if it is not causing you pain or inhibiting your daily movement, you don't need to stress about it. Number two, I am unable to tell you why exactly you are in a specific position or do not have access to a specific position or might be feeling pain from being in a specific position. I am not a physical therapist. This is not a clinical setting. This is not a diagnosis. I am simply giving you ideas based off of a trainer background of things that could possibly help you. None of these things are going to hurt you if you do them with proper form. So if you don't have time to go see a PT, you can go try these first. So the first posture we're going to talk about is upper crossed syndrome. So this is essentially when you have a forward head and then rounded shoulders. With this guy, first thing I want you to do is actually get down into a tabletop position and work through a cat-cow. So we're going to go through the full range of motion through flexion and extension of the spine so you can feel what the extremes feel like. So on the hands, toes are tucked or untucked. We're going to start at the base of the spine, dropping the tailbone down, and then following one vertebrae at a time, pushing the floor away, focusing up. Take a second at that end range of motion, and then same thing from the tailbone, peel through the spine, pressing down, finding that nice arch, and again, take a second at your end range. So just going through a few cycles of that, getting yourself again through all ranges of motion as much as you have in that moment. Next thing I would recommend doing is some kind of chest opener. So I'm gonna give you two options here based on the equipment you have. Number one is super simple with a foam roller. You're gonna take it, place it underneath the shoulder blades, and literally just lie back. Other option is to take some kind of soft ball and you can literally just massage it directly into your chest. If you have a bigger one, you could also lay down on the floor and get a little bit more pressure that way. But just bringing a little bit of like self-myofascial massage into these fibers is gonna help them from this shortened position that we tend to find them in during that posture. Second thing we're gonna do is go back to that tabletop position and we're gonna work on lengthening the muscles through our pelvic floor. So finding that tabletop, we're going to tuck the toes this time. We'll take a big inhale, and I just want you to practice expanding through the ribs. Exhale, contract your core, belly button to the spine. Now we'll lift the knees up. Same thing, inhale. Exhale. Good, last part is the pelvic floor. So big inhale, we're going to send our booty back toward the heels. Exhale, come forward. So as we come back, what we're trying to avoid is tucking the hips. I want you to, God, this is gonna be my internet footprint, shine your butthole to the back wall. So again, big inhale, exhale, contract that core. That is surprisingly more difficult for people than you think. Try a few rounds of it and you should be able to feel your core bracing on that exhale. Then lastly, for this type of posture, I'm gonna recommend literally any type of row. You could do a bent over row, you could do a lat pull down, you could do a lat pull over, you can do a seated row. Honestly, anything here is going to be key to really strengthen these muscles or these fibers that have kind of been lengthened through this position. So just bring a little bit of balance to that upper body. Next posture we have is lower cross syndrome. So this is typically an anterior pelvic tilt or an arched low back, and then a flared rib cage, which basically indicates that you have poor tension throughout your abdominals. So with this one, same exact thing. I want to work through the extremes of each posture so that you can find that neutral position. So we're going to start feet under the hips, and I just want you to stand like really wrong, right? So flaring the rib cage, arching the low back. Now we're going to go into the extreme and opposite. So we're just working through these two positionings here, finding that different pelvic tilt. Now, I want you to go into this anterior tilt and then find neutral. So tuck the hips under, pull the ribs down. You should actually be able to feel your core bracing here. This is what we want in most exercises as our baseline. Once you found your neutral spine, we are going to massage the muscles around the spine. So a lot of times in that arched back position, we tend to get a lot of tightness throughout the muscles of the back. So I would recommend laying down on the foam roller, keeping a little bit of a C curve forward just to protect the spine, and going up and down. You kind of shift more side to side. You might hit a little bit more of the lats here too. Those tend to be a little bit shortened in this position. So just really play around with any points that feel tight, like any other foam rolling. Next thing I'm gonna recommend here are some deadlifts. I'm gonna recommend specifically a kettlebell deadlift because you're able to get nice and low, lots of hip flexion, and the reason why I would program this is for the glutes. So we're gonna stand directly over that bell. I like to line it up with the arches of the feet. Find that neutral spine. Hinge it over, bring the hips down, and then pull the knees back so we're in more of a neutral shin angle, and then try to break the bar between the arms. Big inhale. Exhale, press the floor away, find that neutral spine at the top, making sure that the chest isn't caving forward. Inhale down. Exhale back up. So this is going to be really important to target those glutes, bring a little bit more strength back there. Last one I'm going to recommend is a goblet hold. You can do this kettlebell or dumbbell, and this is going to help us bring tension into the abdominals since we tend to get a little lengthened in this posture. So weight comes up in front of the chest. As you're here, tuck the hips under, pull the ribs down, elbows lock in. So in this goblet position, the core has to work to prevent this from happening. So really maintaining that neutral position. If you do not feel it in your core, your weight is either not heavy enough or you're not doing it right. Last posture we're going to look at is actually on the lower body, and it is the pronation distortion syndrome. So this is when you see foot pronation or flat feet and then internally rotated and adducted knees or knock knees. First thing we're going to do is just start rolling through the feet to find that neutral positioning. So we're just going to shift forward and back. Almost lost my balance. On the heels and on the toes. Don't go too crazy or else you'll fall backwards. And then find the middle of the foot. You should start to feel your arches working here. Then we're gonna do the same thing, side to side. And then we wanna kind of aim right in the middle of that foot. So just finding the extremes of where we could land within the foot is gonna help us understand where that balance is or that middle ground. Next thing we're gonna do is grab our foam roller and foam roll those calves. A lot of times with this posture, you're gonna find that the calves are a little bit tight or shortened, and then the front muscles or the anterior tibialis, that was like a really weird way to say that, front muscles. The muscles on the front of the lower limb are gonna be a little bit weaker or lengthened. So once you're done foam rolling your calves, we're heading to the wall. So now we're gonna work on the muscles on the front of the lower limb. So we're gonna take about a foot step away from the wall, send it down a little bit farther into a wall sit. Elbows drive in, and we're gonna shift our pelvis forward. The reason why I want you to shift your pelvis forward is if we're back, if we're just like standing up here, we've opened up the angle of the ankle. So we're working from an open or a positive angle. All this is gonna be doing is coming back to neutral. So that's not really gonna serve us, right? What we wanna do is start at neutral or 90 degrees and then pull the toes up. So again, sending it down, elbows in, pelvis forward, lifting up, and down. I should let you know that I was actually in physical therapy for these muscles. because you can see I have no range of motion and it's really, really hard, okay? So just know that even if you have like a centimeter of range of motion, you're still working those muscles, and it's gonna be really important for people who do use their calves a lot or suffer from shin splints, so runners, people who hike, dancers, or if you just happen to have this imbalance like we're talking about. And then the last exercise, I actually can't show you from this room because I don't have anything to mount a band on in here, so we'll just kind of pop up another clip. But this is a band-resisted single leg squat. This is actually another one that I was prescribed in physical therapy, but it does translate really well to this particular posture. So this is working on your ankle dorsiflexion, your glute med, and then your overall ground tension. Now you could do this one without the band, but I do like it just for a little bit added pressure onto that ankle, so you are actually resisting against something. All right, so I hope this video was helpful, that it wasn't boring, and that it showed you that perfect posture truly does not exist. Remember that we are not robots. We want to be able to move throughout our entire body, full ranges of motion, and the only way to do that is to get specific with what our body needs, and that is what functional training is. It means training with purpose, training for you and your daily life. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out, and I will see you all in the next one.